Hello. Thank you for the invitation. I always feel extraordinarily honored when I speak at the I-ELCAP conference because of all the many conferences and activities of lung cancer. This is really the one where everything started. So the egg from which lung cancer screening developed. And so it's always special to be allowed to speak on this conference. So I will today speak about the situation in the European Union. There have been some changes, some steps forward, relevant step forward. I will explain a little bit how it came and what the relevance is and where it will go. So these are my disclosures. So I think I don't need to explain the need for screening in this audience. It's pretty clear. Lung cancer is the cancer killer #1. All in Europe, we have high mortality rates and we have a very high number of deaths. The number of deaths is like 2 jumbo jets crashing every day, 650 deaths per day. So you would normally expect a very quick action on this. If you would see 2 plane crashes a day in the European Union, there would be immediate action. In lung cancer, this was not the case. And normally would expect that after the 2006 presentation and the 2006 publication from I-ELCAP, it was basically clear that lung cancer screening reduces mortality in lung cancer, so you would have expected an immediate action. This obviously didn't happen, so I will explain why it took so long and what happens now. So one thing that you need to understand is how healthcare policy is made in the European Union. According to the European contracts, healthcare policy is a national topic. It's decided by the member states. So the member states decide what they reimburse, what they pay for, what they made accessible to their population. The European Union is responsible for similar living conditions. So having infrastructure available, a joint market, being able to travel and work in all European countries, but not directly making healthcare policy. So why is then screening a European topic? This is because it's seen as a living condition topic, because it's on healthy persons. So being able to join a mammography screening or not is seen as a living condition. So this is a subject that the European Union will work on. And this was not shared by all European commissions. Some in the past were more careful on this, more try to stick out of healthcare policy. The current one with Ursula von der Leyen and Stella Kyriakides, both Ursula being a physician, Stella Kyriakides being a cancer survivor, both very active in this field, now is more boldly stepping into this. So when we started, we asked ourselves the question, is it valuable at all to tackle the European level? Shouldn't we directly go more for the member states? We did this analysis. It shows the countries of Europe on the x-axis, and it shows the time axis, and the bold line is the introduction of the European Council recommendation on cancer screening in 2003. And you see that many countries just after this recommendation introduced their screening programs. So you see that the recommendation of the European Council, although it's a recommendation and not a regulation, so it's not a law that the states have to follow, had a significant impact on implementation. So we decided it's worth to go for having lung cancer included in a new recommendation. And this is, of course, like always in real politics, a bit complex. I don't go through all this chart. The take-home message is basically, this is not something that someone decides. So it's not done with going to a decision maker and then there is a decision. You have a complex interplay of stakeholders. You have several bodies making decisions and so on. So you need a plan to do it. And because we have in Europe this trilogon of governments, you have to basically 3 bodies. You have the European Parliament, different from what you know in national systems. The European Parliament is not making the law. This is different from national parliaments we know. They are driving initiatives and they elect the commission. Then we have the commission. The commission is something like the government. So they have the budget, they spend the budget, they run initiatives. Yeah, and the decision-making body is the council, which consists of the member states. So in the council sit representatives from the 27 member states, yeah, and they jointly make decisions. And all of them have a cancer plan. So we needed to work all on these cancer plans. Yeah, we needed to work on the cancer initiative of the European Parliament. We needed to work on the European Cancer Plan of the European Commission. And of course, on the final step, the cancer recommendation of the European Council. Yeah, so this led to the funny effect that our collaborators and partners, we always then ran with many partners from industry, from academia, patient organizations, some initiatives on these decisions. And they always ask me, yeah, Sebastian, now we are done. And I said, no, yeah, it's one step of three, and we need to make the second step. So it's like a triathlon, yeah, where you swim and then you think you are done, but no, you have to run. And when you run, you're still not done. You have to cycle. Yeah, so it's a real, really important to work on all these three topics. Yeah, so I will now focus on the council recommendation, because this, as said, is the most important and impactful, and the other two were more preconditions to get the council recommendation. Yeah. So to get a council recommendation in the EU, it has to come on the agenda of a summit. Yeah, and then at the summit, the member states meet and make a decision, yes or no. Yeah. The agenda for the summit is made by the council presidency, which changes every 6 months. Yeah, so you need to have a country which takes the council presidency and convince them to put it on the agenda for a summit and then decide on it. Yeah, so we started running this in around 2017-18, when the Nelson study was published. We had more evidence. We had a good reason to take the topic up again and drive it. So the first one was Austria. We had many discussions, organized a symposium with societies, with politicians, with insurers. But what happened? This guy became vice chancellor. There was a new government, yeah, and from the populist nationalist party, first thing they did was removing the smoking ban in restaurants. Yeah, so if you simplify smoking, this is obviously not helpful for discussing lung cancer with the European Union. Yeah, so Austria was not a success. Yeah, then we put all our bets on Croatia. Yeah, Croatia had a lung screening program at this time. Claudia traveled there, helped them to set it up. It was running, it was going, the government was behind it. The government was very proud, was willing to push it also in the EU. Yeah, so everything was well aligned. But then you may remember we got a pandemic. Yeah, so the whole EU Council was discussing about face masks, lack of face masks, more face masks, other measures, no time to talk about lung cancer. This was, of course, you imagine, not helpful. Yeah. Then we had German presidency. Yeah, more virus, now lack of vaccines, wrong vaccines, whatever. You imagine, not helpful. Portugal. Yeah, now enough vaccines, but people were not willing to be vaccinated, and so on. More discussions, more discussions. All the European level discussions were about corona vaccines. Yeah, not helpful. Yeah. Then we had Slovenia. Yeah, Slovenia at this time had a nationalist, mainly anti-European government. Yeah, this is overall not helpful, having a European presidency with an anti-European government. The government was dismissed shortly later, but then the presidency was already gone, so it was not helpful. Yeah. Then we had France. Yeah, in France we had a lot of discussions with many stakeholders. Yeah, the one positive side effect was that the HAS, the recommendation body, who was very strictly against lung cancer screening before, now changed their recommendations, so it went well. The whole topic was on the agenda for the EU Health Summit on March 29, 22. I still remember, yeah, but then came February 24, 22. What happened? we had a war in the Ukraine, yeah, and the whole health summit was dedicated to measures around the war, rightfully, but of course, for having lung cancer discussed, this was again not helpful, yeah. So, but it has a good end. So finally, we had Czech Republic. We had again an excellent situation with Martina Vajakova from Prague, who ran a lung screening study, who is a pulmonologist, who was Minister of Health or Vice Minister of Health in the Czech Republic, and she really has good connections into politics, has of course an excellent understanding of the topic. So finally, in the Czech Republic, we got it on the summit agenda in December 22, and the motion finally was approved. Yeah, so I now know how this guy feels. Yeah, every time you roll up the rock on the mountains, there comes a nationalist smoking politician or a virus or a war or something else. Yeah, but it's finally it was at least successful. Yeah. Then there was a certain disappointment, yeah, regarding the outcome. Yeah, so this is a bit the what went in, what went out. Yeah, what went in the decision making was the recommendation from the Scientific Advisory Committee, and you see they said there's strong scientific basis for introducing lung screening. We should do it immediately. And then it went in the machinery of the European Council. And remember, all the member states of the European Union have to agree. And there's always, like in every meeting with more than 20 people, you have someone being concerned or someone being against it and so on. And then what came out is a bit of compromise. Yeah, they now wrote something about preliminary evidence, which is of course not true. Yeah, but this is what comes out when you have to achieve a compromise between a lot of people. Yeah, still, it's a very good and valuable step, yeah, because now we have an official recommendation from the European Union to start with implementation. Yeah, this gives a clear mandate, yeah, to run pilots. This enables access to EU level funding. There was the Health for You initiative. There was the funding for the SOLACE consortium initiative, Sideline and so on were started and funded by the European Union. And now this gives us everything to now lobby for implementation in member states. Yeah, and also it, as I said, we saw it in the 2003 recommendation. Yeah, now the EU level will regularly report on which member states implemented lung screening, which didn't implement lung screening. And this is, of course, something which puts pressure on the system, yeah, and which enables us to demand more progress in the states. So it's a very good development. And I think now it's up to us, to the lung screening community, to work in their countries on starting pilots, on moving forward. And we indeed saw a lot of progress. Yeah, this is the map of Europe. It's largely data from the Lung Cancer Policy Network. We see that 2018, we had a number of countries running studies or early pilots. Yeah, and now we have recently the decision in UK to make screening a national program. Yeah, we have a decision in Poland moving towards implementation. We have the national program in Croatia, and we have a lot of other countries doing pilots, increasing regional coverage and so on. So it's really moving, and it will move even further now with the European Council recommendation. And my final slide is now about what is going to change. Yeah, personally, the biggest change is what you see on the right side. Yeah, and before, when I talked to politicians, I always was the one who needed to explain and justify why we need screening. Yeah, this now turned around. When you talk to politicians, they normally excuse for not having screening. Yeah, so the need for justification switched to the other side, which is a great progress. Yeah, you see that now screening is seen as standard. Everyone expects it to be done, and the discussion is more about what do we need, how fast can we go, what questions are open, and so on. But everyone accepts the basic fact that lung cancer screening is required in European countries. Another interesting thing is on the left side. It's hard to read. This is a slide from a meeting in Brussels with the European Commission, and it shows the funding. Yeah, they the funding vehicles they have in place. And you see above the research funding, which is the EU for Health program and the Horizon Europe program with 38 and 60 million, which is research funding, which is good, but not enormous money. More interesting is what is on the lower side. It shows that they see this as a topic of European cohesion. That means that they will open funding from the European cohesion funds. These are these very big budgets of 400 billion plus that are used to build infrastructure in lower income European countries. So this means that the European Union is seeing this as a sort of infrastructure, like building motorways, like improving train networks, telecommunication, and so on, and is willing to open these very large funds to the lower income European countries, which I think will really change a lot, because we saw it in mammography screening, where the European Union, for example, financed a lot of activities in Romania and other countries in Europe with income below average. And I think this is really a very important slide. Therefore, I copied it here, despite the bad quality. So this is the final slide about how such things are done. What was really extremely helpful was that we had a strong coalition. These are the clinical societies that signed the open letter to the European Council when it was discussed to include lung screening in the Council recommendation. They did this within 10 days. So it was just a short period from when learned that this is at risk to have an open letter from all of these societies, 55 in total. And when you think that clinical scientific societies are normally not immediately and very closely always working together, you see that this is quite unique, having 55 societies lobbying for one thing, and in Europe, and it was extremely helpful, this strong alliance. So the clinical societies can really achieve a lot when they work together and speak with one voice to politics and say, we all need this for our patients, because the lung cancer patients normally don't speak for themselves. The patient organizations are not very strong. You have only few survivors. There's a stigma. So it has to be driven by the medical community. If the medical community really joins and speaks with one voice, it can be very powerful. So I'm very happy that finally we have this recommendation and we see this progress in Europe, and I expect a lot of more progress in the next 2-3 years. We will later hear more about the member states of the European Union, the progress in the individual states. But I think now finally Europe is catching up compared to the leaders in the US, and also in Asia now a lot of movement visible towards real world implementation of lung screening. Thank you very much.